The first time I realized the world could crack open in a single breath was the moment I saw Baron's handwriting again. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and turned a forgotten key. The ticket arrived on a dull Wednesday morning, the kind that usually passed without leaving a mark. Yet this one split my life clean into before and after. It came in a plain envelope, the edges worn as if it had traveled through more hands than necessary. Inside was a single bus ticket from Oregon with 5 words slanted in familiar ink. I still love you. I must have read that sentence 100 times before I let myself breathe. Baron had disappeared 9 months earlier without a goodbye, without a reason, without the decency of closure. We had been together for 3 years, building something unsteady but ours. Then one morning I woke up and he was gone, leaving behind nothing but a half-packed suitcase and a silence that felt like punishment. And now, suddenly, this. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the ticket, trying to make sense of why he would resurface after vanishing so completely. My heart was furious. My heart was grateful. My heart was breaking all over again. I could not tell which feeling was the loudest. I tried to ignore it, tried to shove the memory of Baron into the dusty corners where old heartbreaks went to die. But the universe had other plans. Because 2 days later, another envelope appeared, this time from California. Another ticket, the same message. I still love you. By the 5th one, Arizona, I knew this was not a mistake. He was sending me a trail, a breadcrumb path across the entire country. Every ticket was dated a few days apart, as if he were traveling state by state, whispering apologies through folded paper and expired fares. Something inside me began to move, something I thought I had buried. I did not tell anyone. Not my sister, who had hated Baron from the moment she saw me smile at my phone too often. Not my best friend Elijah, who had held me through the worst of the breakup. I kept every ticket tucked into a small wooden box on my bedside table, opening it at night when the apartment was quiet, when my thoughts were loud, running my thumb along Baron's handwriting like it might explain something. But explanations did not come. Only more envelopes. Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. Each one arriving like a pulse, like a reminder that the past was not finished with me. By the time the 13th envelope arrived, I had memorized the shape of Baron's words. I knew which letters he pressed too hard on, which ones looked like they were rushing to catch up with the sentence. I knew the slant of his emotions, even when he refused to use them on his tongue. But I had questions. Endless, vicious questions. Why did you leave? Why are you back? Why do you think this is enough? The 14th ticket came on a stormy evening when the sky was the color of bruised plum. I was standing at the window watching rain hammer the street when the delivery van rolled by, slowing at my mailbox. I felt the shift before I saw the envelope. Inside was a ticket from Michigan. But this time there was more than the usual message. Tell me you kept these. Something fragile in me snapped, or maybe it woke up. I sat down and answered out loud even though he could not hear me. I kept every one. The next envelope arrived 3 days later. Wisconsin. Same words as always. I still love you. But beneath them he had added a second line. Meet me, please. I had no idea where he was. No idea how long it would take until he reached my state. No idea what I was supposed to feel when he finally stood in front of me again. Wanting him felt like picking up a knife. Not wanting him felt like carving out a piece of myself. That night's sleep avoided me. Memories came instead. The first time Baron touched my hand in the library pretending to reach for the same book. The night we raced barefoot on the beach until the sky cracked open with stars. The mornings he brewed coffee too strong and pretended it was exactly the way I liked it. The birthday he surprised me with a road trip that ended at a cliff overlooking the sea where he whispered, "I think I could love you forever." And then, the morning he left. I woke up alone, his clothes gone, his phone turned off, his scent still on the pillow beside me. The kind of abandonment that leaves no explanation is its own kind of violence. And I bled for months. So when the 15th ticket arrived Minnesota, I held it like it was both a cure and a wound. I still love you. I threw the ticket across the room. Then I scrambled after it, as if losing it would mean losing a part of him I had pretended not to miss. The 16th came from Iowa. The 17th from Nebraska. By the 18th South Dakota, something inside me shifted from confusion to inevitability. He was getting closer, state by state, heartbeat by heartbeat. And I could feel my resolve cracking. But there was still no explanation, no apology, no reason, just that one repeating confession that refused to stop haunting me. Finally, the 19th envelope arrived. North Dakota. But instead of a single ticket, this one held a small torn photograph of the two of us sitting on the hood of my old car, laughing at something I could no longer remember. On the back, in Barron's unmistakable handwriting, he had written, "If you knew the truth, you would understand everything." I stared at that line for a long time, the way one stares at the horizon waiting for a storm to choose its direction. The 20th envelope arrived 4 days later. It was from Montana. But this time it held no ticket at all. Only a single folded note. "I am coming home." My knees went weak. My heartbeat was unsteady. Home meant my state, my city, my doorstep. And maybe, just maybe, me. I did not know whether to wait with open arms or locked doors. Because loving Barron again meant reopening every wound he left behind. But not loving him felt impossible, like trying to unlearn gravity. I spent the next few days in a haze. I cleaned the apartment twice even though nothing was dirty. I reorganized the box of tickets 100 times. I walked to the park where Barron once kissed me under the archway of trees and tried not to remember how safe I had felt. On the 4th day, I found myself at the train station without planning to be there. The sun was setting. The air was cold enough to sting. People moved around me with purpose. Luggage wheels scraping against concrete. Announcements echoing overhead. And in that moment I felt something electric, like a current pulling me forward. I kept scanning the platform, searching faces, wondering if all of this had been in my head, a fantasy born from loneliness and memory. Then I saw him. Barron. Standing at the far end of the platform, worn travel coat draped over one arm, his other hand clutching what looked like the remaining stack of tickets. His hair was longer, brushing his jaw, his face thinner, but his eyes the same warm storm that had once unraveled me. He looked at me like a man returning to the one thing he thought he had lost forever. We did not move at first, just breathed the same cold air from 20 steps apart. Then he whispered my name. Anselm. My chest tightened. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but the reality burned fiercer. He took a slow, hesitant step toward me, as if expecting me to run. I did not. When he stood close enough that I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes, he held out the stack of remaining tickets. His hand trembled. "I brought these for you, all of them." I swallowed hard. For the first time since he returned, his gaze fell. His voice was quiet but sharp as a confession cutting its way out. "Because the last time I stood in front of you, I had to choose between losing you and saving you. And I chose wrong." My pulse thudded. Save me from what? Barron's breath shook. The answer was trembling on his tongue. But then a voice crackled over the intercom, announcing the arrival of another train. People surged around us, breaking the moment, scattering its pieces. Barron stepped closer, urgency rising in his tone. "I left because someone came after me, someone who threatened you to get to me, and the only way to protect you was to disappear." My breath caught, the world tilted, a cold ripple moved down my spine. Who Barron? His eyes searched mine with a grief that looked years old. My father. And everything inside me froze. I felt the world narrow into a single piercing point, as if all the noise of the station folded in on itself. My breath caught halfway up my throat. Baron's father. The man I had only heard about in scraps and shadows. The man whose silence Baron always carried like a bruise. I tried to speak, but the words dissolved before reaching air. Baron watched me carefully, like he expected me to take a step back or shatter. I finally managed. Your father threatened you. Threatened me. Why would he do that? Baron swallowed, the movement tight, painful, because he found out about us. And he made it very clear that if I didn't disappear, he would make sure you paid the price. I knew what he was capable of, Anselm. I had seen it my entire life. Couldn't risk you. I couldn't risk what he would do. My knees felt weak. Emotions surged fast and volatile, like water against thin glass. Anger, hurt, painful understanding. And beneath all of it, the remnants of love I had never truly buried. I took a step closer, voice trembling. So you just left, without a word, without trusting me to choose with you. He flinched. I know what I took from you. I know how badly I broke you. But if I had stayed, he would have come after you in ways you couldn't imagine. I thought I could outrun him. I thought if I stayed away long enough, if I kept moving, he'd lose interest. Baron exhaled, shaky and tired. He didn't. He followed me across 5 states before he finally turned back. I kept going anyway. I stayed moving. I stayed gone. Until I realized running without a destination is just a slow kind of dying. And every place I went, every state line I crossed, I kept thinking of you. The tickets. The sudden trail he'd left. The ghost messages written across paper. They weren't just confessions. They were a map of his escape. A map of everything he had endured alone. Baron looked at the stack of tickets in his hand as if they were pieces of his own ribs. I sent you one from every state because I needed you to know that not a single mile I traveled took me farther from you. I needed you to feel what I couldn't say out loud. I didn't trust myself to speak. I was afraid my voice would break open into something irreparable. Baron's tone softened. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. But I'm here because the danger is gone. My father's finally under investigation. My brother reported him. Safe now. Safe for me to be here. Safe to see you again. And I couldn't stay away anymore. Not from you. A tremor moved through me. Slow. Heavy. Bone deep. The memories rushed in again. Not gently this time. The laughter. The mornings. The way Baron kissed me like the world was ending behind us. And then the pain. The hollow weeks. The unanswered questions. The quiet I had been forced to sleep beside. You hurt me, I whispered. His eyes closed. I know. You broke more than my heart, Baron. You broke the ground under my feet. He nodded, swallowing hard. And I've been trying to rebuild it with every mile I walked back to you. Something inside me cracked. Not in the way it had cracked before. This one let light through. A breeze swept across the platform, lifting the edges of his coat. His hair shifted across his forehead, the same way it always did when he was nervous, when he was waiting for my reaction like it was the verdict of his entire life. Do you still love me? I asked quietly. Baron's breath caught. His voice was barely more than a tremor. I never stopped, not even for a second. The honesty in his eyes hit me straight in the chest. A truth raw enough to bruise. I looked down at the tickets in his hand. 20 states worth of pain and devotion. 20 states worth of trying. 20 states worth of a man who left everything to keep me safe. He added, if you tell me to leave now, I will. I won't fight it. I won't push. I just needed you to know the truth before I disappeared for good. The idea of him disappearing again felt like a physical blow. The station around us blurred. The world shrank to the space between our breaths. Baron's voice cracked. Just say the word and I'll walk away. You deserve peace. You deserve someone whole. I shook my head slowly. You think I want someone safe, I want someone real. Even if it hurts. His eyes widened with something like hope. Something like fear. I took a breath that scraped my lungs. Baron, if you had told me the truth back then, we could have faced it together. He held my gaze, guilt and longing twisting through his expression. I know, and I'll regret that forever. We stood in a quiet pocket of the station as people rushed past, living their own lives while ours hovered on the edge of something fragile and monumental. What do you want from me now? I asked. Not a second chance, he said softly, just the chance to deserve one. The sentence landed gently but pierced deep. He added, and if all you give me is a goodbye that isn't angry, I'll take it. I'll let that be enough. But something in me refused to let this moment be goodbye. The ache I had carried for months began to shift, making room for something else, something cautious, something trembling, something hopeful. I stepped even closer, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from him. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, I admitted. His voice was barely audible. I can wait. I don't know if I can trust you. Not fully. Not right away. I can earn that too. But I know one thing. He lifted his eyes, waiting. I never stopped loving you either. The words hung between us, quiet and staggering. Baron's breath broke. His eyes glistened. For a moment, he looked younger, softer, the man I had loved before the world tore us apart. I reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away if he needed to. He didn't. When my fingers touched his, he inhaled sharply, like the contact alone was salvation. We didn't kiss. We didn't rush. We simply stood there, holding the truth between our hands, letting the weight of it settle. For the first time in months, the ache inside me loosened, just enough to let in air. Baron whispered, "Thank you." But I wasn't offering forgiveness. Not yet. I was offering something different. A beginning. When you are ready, I can continue with the next part of the story. Baron's fingers tightened around mine with a kind of fragile hope, the kind that feels like it might dissolve if held too tightly. The sun finished sinking behind the station roof, leaving us wrapped in the soft blue of early evening. The world felt quieter now, as if it understood that something delicate and unfinished was unfolding between us. I exhaled slowly. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Let's go somewhere we can talk. Not here. Baron nodded, relief flickering across his face like a match flaring in the dark. Wherever you want. We walked side by side out of the station, our hands brushing but not fully holding. There was something comforting in the small proximity, a reminder that this moment was real, not another memory I had been replaying alone. The night air carried the faint scent of rain and city lights. The sidewalks shimmered under neon reflections. I led him to a small coffee shop a few blocks away. It was quiet at this hour, just a handful of late workers and students tapping at keyboards. We settled in a corner booth. Baron sat across from me, the overhead lamp casting soft shadows on his face, making him look tired and impossibly vulnerable. I folded my hands together. Start from the beginning. Everything. No holding back this time. Baron nodded, hands shaking slightly as he wrapped them around the warm cup the barista had set down. He stared into the steam as if gathering the pieces of his past from it. My father always hated me, or maybe hate isn't even the right word. Maybe disappointment is worse than hate. To him, I was a broken version of what a son should be. When he figured out that the reason I kept sneaking out was to see you, Baron's voice cracked. I thought he would explode. I remembered the bruises I had seen once, the ones he had brushed off, the silence he had never explained, the shadows I'd sensed but never named. He continued quietly. He told me he'd ruin your life if I didn't disappear, said he'd make sure you lost your job, that he'd go to your mother, that he'd find ways to hurt you without leaving a mark. And he could. He had the connections, the influence, the money. I've seen him destroy people before, Anselm. I knew he wasn't bluffing. My jaw clenched. Rage simmered in my chest, cold and sharp. I imagined Baron facing that alone, terrified and cornered. I imagined him choosing to vanish, believing it was the only choice that didn't end with me bleeding somewhere in the fallout. You still should have told me, I said softly. Even if it was dangerous. I deserved the truth, Baron. He pressed a hand to his forehead, eyes squeezed shut. I know, but I panicked. And everything I did after that came from fear, not logic. I packed a bag and left that same night. I thought it would be for a week. Just a week to keep you safe. But then it spiraled. He swallowed hard, as if reliving it. He tracked me to Nevada. That was the first time I realized he wasn't going to let go. I kept moving. Utah, Colorado, Kansas. I worked odd jobs, slept in motels, sometimes in my car when money ran out. Every time I crossed a border, I felt like I was outrunning a ghost made of my father's shadow. A muscle in my chest tightened. I had spent months believing Baron left because I wasn't enough, because he didn't choose us. Meanwhile, he had been fighting to protect me in the only broken way he knew how. How did it end, I asked. My brother. Baron looked up then, eyes bright with something complex. He finally told the police what our father had been doing for years. Not just to us, not just to me, to other people too. He might not be convicted yet, but he's cornered. He can't come after you. He can't hurt you. Or me. A long silence stretched between us. Then Baron whispered, I came back because I'm not afraid anymore, and because I never stopped loving you. I didn't know how to stay away, not once I knew you were safe. My throat tightened. I didn't know what to say. There was so much pain tangled with relief, so many old wounds brushing against new truths. Finally I said, you should have trusted me with the truth. I could have handled the danger with you. That's what love is, choosing the fight together. His eyes glistened. I know, and I failed you in the worst way, but I'm here now, and I want to do things right, even if that means starting from nothing. Starting from nothing. The phrase echoed in my chest. Maybe that was what we needed. Not to erase the past or pretend the hurt didn't exist, but to build something new on ground that wasn't cracked. I leaned back, studying him. He looked older somehow. Not in years, but in ache. In miles. In the weight of trying to protect someone he loved by sacrificing himself. You're different, I said quietly. He held my gaze. So are you. Maybe we had to be. Maybe that was the only way this moment could exist. I reached out slowly, placing my hand palm up on the table. It was not forgiveness, not a promise, but an invitation. Baron stared at my hand like it was something holy. Then he placed his own in mine. His touch was warm, trembling, human. For a moment nothing else mattered. Not the past, not the fear, not the shadows of what had happened. Only the fragile connection that still lived between us, stubborn and flickering, like a small light that refused to die. I squeezed his hand once, soft, deliberate. Okay, I said, breathing out. Tell me what you want now, not what you think I want to hear, what you want. He looked at me with an honesty so raw it almost hurt to see. I want a life where I don't have to run anymore. I want peace. I want to sleep without looking at the door every hour. And I want. His voice faltered. He swallowed. I want you in that life. If you'll have me. If you can ever trust me again. My heart pounded. But it wasn't fear this time. It was possibility. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, I said. I don't know how long it will take for me to heal. But I know this, I want to try. Slowly. Carefully. With honesty this time. No more running. Baron's breath left him in a quiet, shaking exhale. Relief softened the edges of his face. Thank you, he whispered. I'm not forgiving you tonight, I warned. You don't have to. I'm not asking for a shortcut, just a chance. We sat there for a long time, hands still touching, cups growing cold, the night stretching quietly outside the window. For the first time since he returned, I felt something settle inside me. Not closure, not yet, but the beginning of something that might grow into understanding. The world outside continued. People walked past the windows unaware that inside a small coffee shop, Two broken boys were trying to piece together the remnants of a love interrupted by fear and saved by a second chance. And as he looked at me with the kind of softness I once thought I'd never see again, I realized something quietly devastating. Sometimes love does not die. It waits.